Thank you for tuning into NC CAP's Seminar Series. In this episode, we'll be discussing summer planning amid COVID-19 with Dr. Elaina Sabatine, who currently serves as the Executive Director of ENC STEM, which is an education nonprofit organization focused on STEM enrichment, character development, and social advocacy for high school students in Eastern North Carolina. In addition to strategic planning for academic programs, she provides professional development and leadership training for students, teachers, and administrators in high-need communities. Elaina also consults with various agencies focused on positive youth development, including North Carolina's Department of Instruction. In these roles, she has applied her academic research, which explores achievement motivation and academic self-efficacy of underserved students. Elaina is dedicated to helping teachers create socially and emotionally safe learning spaces for youth. Hi, Elaina. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
How are you? I miss everything.
Hanging in there.
Awesome. I'm glad you're doing well. So could you tell our viewers just a little bit more about ENC STEM? How long have you guys been in existence?
Yeah, so this summer, although we're moving to a virtual programming, given everything that's gone on, this will be our 8th summer. So we for a little while and have always been operating out of Eastern North Carolina. The other co-director who couldn't be here today, Grayson Cooper, he and I both started as high school science and math teachers. He was a math instructor at Northampton County High School, and then it just sort of grew from there.
Wow. So how have you guys maintained your longevity and success? So this is your 8th summer. How have you found funding? How have you maintained student engagement over the course of these years?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So we have been primarily funded as a item in the state budget through the North Carolina state budget, which has been great. And we've also had some other private funders that we've been able to work with and have had strong partnerships with over the years. And that's been a goal to have that consistency of funding. I also think that strong partnerships, both with our districts that we work with and also other partners. So we partner heavily with the North Carolina School of Science and Math, which is, everyone knows is Science and Math Institution in Durham, North Carolina. So they've been a strong partner with us. And I think that those partnerships have, because they're such tight mission alignment, so although NCSSM has students come from all over the state to stay there residentially, and that's the core of what they do, they also do a lot of programming to serve students across the state of North Carolina generally, especially. Part of their mission is to serve students in communities. So we have really strong mission alignment there. And I think that, and then of course, it's always been the mission of the schools that we partner with directly, high schools in Eastern North Carolina, to serve their students well. So I think that really tight mission alignment has been a critical part of that, just because everyone's sort of rowing the boat in the same direction and we're all moving toward the same goal. So that's been really helpful. And then, like you said, I think the students have actually been one of the most critical levers for our success. So our students are really engaged. We have a core group of what we call student representatives who apply in the fall to be part of the strategic planning for the program throughout the year. And they also do our recruitment as well. So when we go out and recruit students in the communities, it's our students recruiting other students, which is really helpful because that's the voice that potential students really want to hear. They want to hear from students who have been involved in the program. And students really have a close bond. They're really tight knit. And so to explain that to other potential students and to say, this is what the experience is going to be like for you. I mean, that's the best advertisement, better word that we could use, just because it's an authentic voice of our students and communities telling students this is a worthwhile experience for you. And they share that voice, and we try to put them in situations where they can share that voice with potential funders and legislators and other folks who've been critical stakeholders for us. So I really think the student voice has been the most powerful thing for us, as well as key partnerships with folks who are engaged in trying to do the same work that we are.
Wow. So you guys have found longevity, you found something that works, you've had a secret recipe, that works for you all. What challenges have you encountered as you guys have developed and broadened your programming?
Yeah, like any that stability of funding when you are using short-term grants. You're constantly in a funding cycle of having to, seek new funders or maintain engagement with the same funders. Obviously, with the state budget, that's been a challenge this year for everyone in education, as there's been, that budget impasse definitely affected us as well. So creating stability when you're in an unstable context around that kind of thing is challenging. So that's definitely one. I would say that's probably the biggest thing, and that's not unique to us. That's a challenge for all nonprofits, I think. So being able to offer, we always say internally as an organization, the worst thing we could do would be to offer something to our students and then have it be taken away. Since we, above all, want to be able to be a consistent source of support for them, since that is something that's really important for students, not just in their education, but also just developmentally and socially and emotionally. To have something that they can rely on consistently is really important to us. So I would say, the challenges with providing consistent funding and making sure that everything can be consistently funded is definitely a top priority and something that's been really challenging. And just being responsive. I think being responsive to community need and making sure that we are decisions that are not just driven by what we think is going to be the best for the organization or serve students best, but really being open to listening to what our partner schools and districts have to say and what works well for them. And then from the families that we serve, what works well for them and what are they really looking for. So we've made a lot of shifts over the course of the organization. Early on, we were really focused on career skills and ACT prep, thinking that those things would be really valuable for students, but we were engaged with them for a short period of time over the summer. And so we were learning and getting feedback and hearing from students that might not have been the biggest bang for the buck in terms of giving them a really rich experience. So we've made some things that we've shifted a little bit more toward community advocacy. That's something we've heard resoundingly from our students. They want an opportunity to be engaged in community advocacy. They want to be advocates for the Eastern North Carolina community, particularly around education. And so we just had to be responsive to that, to say, okay, that's not where we originally thought things were going to go, but that's the need and that's the desire that our students have. And so we need to be flexible in responding to that and then say, okay, how can we create really strong programming to provide them that platform and that experience? So it's really, trying to maintain consistency as an organization while also being flexible in terms of the services that we provide and the opportunities and experiences that we provide so that they fit the need that exists in Eastern North Carolina.
And speaking of your flexibility, earlier you mentioned that you all were going virtual and you all offer STEM. And when I think of STEM, as when many people think of STEM, they think hands-on, we're building, we're experiencing together, we're collaborating, and there's so many things that are attached to STEM that requires this in-person component. So how has COVID-19 adjusted that? How has that changed your planning for STEM? How do you still provide that sense of hands-on without being hands-on?
Sure, yeah. That's been the big challenge for us as we've been gearing up for the summer. And it's definitely made some changes that were unavoidable for us. So we have been planning since the fall, a series of different curricula that students could be involved with so that they would have a level of choice about what they wanted to engage with over the summer. And we were really excited this summer to be able to offer interdisciplinary courses. That was a new shift. We're not just taking a science course and a math course and a technology course, we're blending them together in these topics. And we were excited to be able to offer a variety of course options for students, which was a little bit of a different model that we were shifting to planning for in-person learning. And it ended up setting us up really well for virtual learning. We had these curricula planned out and we're able to look at them and say, okay, which would be the best fit for virtual learning? So really streamline, we're going to be engaging students for only 2.5 hours a day, which is less than what we typically do when we're with them in person over the summer. And we're going to extend the opportunity to be available to students for a longer period of time so that they can still get the same amount of instructional time as they would have during the in-person summer program, if that's their choice, or they could choose to engage for small of time, since we know obviously virtual learning and access to resources and things can be stressful for students and families. So we were able to take a look at the curricula and say, which do we think we could do online? Coding was one, so coding video games and building video games on an online platform. That's always been a course that we've offered in one iteration or another that's relied on no physical resource done. There are some other in-person or hands-on things you could do to extend that, but that works really well for virtual learning. So we're sticking with coding for the summer, which is exciting. And then we're actually doing a bioengineering course that we have been able to and are still working to find online simulations. So there are a lot of universities and organizations out there who have built sophisticated online labs and virtual labs around genetics. So that's a really rich area online where there are a lot of simulations and things that students can do. I think the need has come from that historically, from just those are very resource intensive things and materials, and they're very, very expensive. And so I think there's been a lot of online resources that have been built to try to help meet need just around like cost. If you weren't able to do a gel electrophoresis or run something like that, that stuff's all available online now. So we were able to look at the resources we have and say, how can we make this work, knowing that we aren't going to be there in person with kids. And then another thing we've been thinking about a lot is, the struggle with synchronous learning and getting everybody into a Zoom room at the same time is tough. And how do you manage that? And what are the norms around that? And, students all being in classrooms. I know it's something that parents are helping kids manage right now. And we wanted to balance that with some asynchronous learning that kids could be doing on their own that would be guided through the resources that we were giving them. But we really did want to, and it's really important to us that we do hold on to some of that synchronous time. So we've just been focusing on building out a model that balances both, so that kids don't have to feel like they're in front of a computer screen the whole day, in a Zoom room, which can be draining. They can be working a little bit on their own and then coming together to still have that collaboration. So we are planning to have kids in their project groups online together, supervised, safe way, so they can still continue to collaborate on their projects. That's really the core of our model and what we've done with kids. So we just aren't willing to sacrifice that. So we're willing to make that work and extend the resources to make sure that that's possible. So all of those things, I think, obviously we haven't started yet. We start in mid-June, so we don't we don't have quite the data yet to say whether that's been successful, but we're hopeful and have been doing a lot of learning from folks who've been engaged, for months now in virtual instruction. So we're hopeful that it's going to go really well.
Wow. And so to shift gears just a little bit, how has your professional development for your staff been altered? Because I remember doing the program and we started, let's say, March-ish, and then the ball began rolling. It was a lot of in-person togetherness. We worked together. We discussed our lesson plans, everything leading up, the culture of the classrooms that we wanted to create. So how has your professional development for staff, how has that been altered now that COVID-19 has taken place?
For sure. Yeah, we definitely typically have a timeline that starts a lot earlier in the year. So that's been very compressed. Fortunately, some of that professional development is around managing the logistics of being together in person. So things like lunch duty and buses. And I mean, we essentially set up and then tear down an entire school every summer. I mean, that's sort of how things work in terms of having to get, the cafeteria for food and buses. And it's sort of a micro school. And so all of that logistics piece, since we're not engaging kids in person, we can reappropriate that time that we would have spent toward setting teachers up with the expectations and the landscape around the physical logistics to this online piece. So fortunately, we made a shift this fall where we have our leadership team working on curriculum development. And so that was taken, that responsibility, we did that to remove the burden from teachers of having to do from scratch or starting with limited resources, building out these courses, which is why we start a lot earlier in the year so teachers have time to work on that. We want to be able to give them resources that they can tweak and modify from versus giving them the responsibility of having to create something entirely new. And so that has allowed us to be able to be a little bit more nimble in terms of being ready for them. We already had that curricula ready to go. So that was really fortunate for us. And yeah, now that some of the physical logistics are removed, we've been able to compress that timeline so that teachers are really going to be able to focus on what they're going to be doing with students, because that's really the bulk of what their time is going to be versus what it used to be with all of these other things that they would have to worry about. And it's interesting because well, this summer we'll have students from all across Eastern North Carolina, but we typically have students who are concentrated in the geographical regions we serve with the physical sites, but we get instructors from all over. And so it's a challenge sometimes when we have our in-person PD. People are coming sometimes from an hour and a half or close to 2 hours away to meet in Durham or Rocky Mount or Gaston. What's interesting is we've always gotten feedback from instructors that was like, can't we have a virtual PD? I'm driving 2 hours to be here. It would be really great. Like, couldn't we all just, and years ago, that just wasn't the mindset that we were going to bring people together in a virtual way. But this has created a new challenge for us where we really might be able to be responsive to that need that teachers have if we can figure out a way, just with the pressure that we're under this year, to be able to do it virtually. If we can figure out a way to do that well, that could definitely be something that we carry forward to create access for teachers in terms of being able to be present for something that they are really far away from. And I think everyone's doing that learning right now, but especially for us, we've gotten that feedback before and just have never prioritized it because it has not been an immediate need, and now it's everybody's immediate need. So, okay, well, now we don't have. So what can we do to learn really well and really rapidly in this time now moving forward? That could be an option that we could give so that we could be more responsive to our teachers. So students, we're planning on doing a lot of modules, a lot of asynchronous things so teachers can be engaging, a lot of like screencasting and walking through folks and creating these modules that we would ordinarily do in person. And if that goes well, that's some thinking that we need to do around, maybe that's a model that works. And then folks can, be home with their families or doing what they need to do and getting that information, maybe not on one Saturday when we would all get together, but maybe it's throughout a week or something like that. So I think there's a really fertile ground for a lot of learning here we can do around what virtual PD could look like moving forward, just as a general practice, not just in response to this situation.
Yeah. Okay. Last question. And it's what is one piece of advice that you would give a program that is planning for the summer right now? They're trying to figure out best practices. They're trying to figure out, what does this look like for them? What's one strong piece of advice that you'd give them?
I think as we've been surveying students and families in our partner districts, I think the thing that we've been hearing over and over and over again is that students right now are facing a really strong sense of social isolation. They're not necessarily able to get together and be close to their peers. And that's really important, not just developmentally, but also, for their own learning, to be able to work collaboratively, we know is really important. And we have shifted this summer to a lens of providing a space that can help meet kids' social and emotional needs really well. And as a byproduct of being in that space, kids picking up STEM content and being engaged in STEM content in a really rigorous way. Versus I think our lens is typically the opposite, where it's like we're providing this opportunity for kids to engage in STEM in a rigorous and exciting and fun, challenging way, and help them, make new friends in the region who they ordinarily wouldn't be used to. And this summer we're flipping that. I think, the big question that we get a lot is like, how are you going to keep kids engaged? How are you going to keep kids from starting and dropping out and attrition and all of these things? And kids have been learning online for so long. What's going to be the thing that draws them? And what we've always known to be true for our students, brings them to us in person, is the social component of getting to make friends and lifelong friends. Some of our students or some of our alumni are, college roommates and still friends after, as they're getting ready to graduate college. So, they really be close. And that's the thing that brings them back every summer. It's like, I want to be with my group. I want to be with my people. And we've really been thinking that's got to be top of mind for us. That's an experience, not only that kids, it's fun for them, it's something they really need. All of us need, and that element of social connection. So we really want to be mindful about how can we still maintain that. That's always been the core of our programming. How can we maintain that? And then this summer, actually prioritizing it first. And then saying, once we engage kids in that space, then we will come to them and meet them with this rigorous experience. And I think that sort of came to us organically, just listening to the voices that were of our stakeholders. And I think, everyone's talking about a lot of other stuff here, and that's not something we've heard a lot. So I think that would be the number one thing I would share, is that kids really need a way to connect, and that's a really important need for them. And I think if they have that, that's what will bring them back. And then when they come back, there will be more STEM waiting for them to learn. So that's sort of the lens that we're using this year.
And thank you so much for taking the time out to meet with me. To learn more about ENC STEM and the work that they're doing with students in Eastern North Carolina, check out www.encstem.org. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos like this and others that we know you'll enjoy. Do you have an idea for a seminar or a webinar that you would love to see NCCAP cover? Well, comment below or check out our website at www.ncafterschool.org.